couple of weeks ago, I mean, Mick McCarthy was in town and speaking about the player hunt. And I mean, I understand why he's doing it. I mean, it's an embedded part of our football culture that we do it, and we've used the granny rule for years, or the eligibility rules for years, and everyone's doing it, as people pointed out. Diego Costa and I know that's residency, or there's various people play the rules to get who they want to get. But there was just something that sat a bit uncomfortably about, okay, we're in one fell swoop, we're now making a play for Bamford, for Patrick Bamford, for Nathan Redmond and for Will Keane, all of whom have turned down Ireland before, and some cases maybe more than one occasion, or they've rejected calls, or maybe they knew the rules that they could only switch once, and I appreciate that. But I think maybe off the back of the Declan Rice thing, and we're now seeing that the other side of the eligibility rules and how it can play for you, I think it does sort of devalue things a small bit when we're maybe in one go trying to get in as many as we can, to help us. I know it's in particularly in attacking areas. I know we're light there. I know the argument would be that, if Ireland qualify for a tournament, that's worth more to the game than anything. But I know there will be players, you think of the likes of, say, Patrick Hoban, who had a great season with Dundalk last year, and I mentioned Killian Sheridan, I mentioned Adam Rooney, the ship has possibly sailed for him. He's gone from Aberdeen to Salford. But it does feel sometimes that we're more likely to throw a fella in for a cap that is outside qualified, rather than the player, the homegrown player that you can almost take for granted they're going to be there all along, and there's a process of trying to recruit someone to get them on board as an option. Well, then you almost feel like you have to bring them in. I mentioned Will Keane, for example, who's Michael Keane's twin brother now. Very talented player, Will Keane. But in his younger days, and the irony is he didn't play for Ireland when he was younger because he basically was deemed to be too good for it. And Michael Keane actually came over and tried to play. He came over to play for Ireland, I think at under 19 level, under 17, under 19 level, maybe both even. And then England came calling and he sort of followed his heart and he went there. And he could never switch back because Will Keane never even played for Ireland when he was younger and he was in the England setup. Well, then that's left him open to switch at a later date. In his entire senior career, he's 26 now, I think he scored 6 goals, maybe a 7th goal, maybe in a cup match or something like that. And I just feel that someone with those qualifications, you feel like they need to do something amazing to get a call up, to go in an amazing, and then maybe then you sit back and you consider it. Whereas there's just something about like reaching around, getting at lads of any kind to get them in, to have a look at them, let's get them qualified. I just think it's what we've always done, but I just wonder, do we reach a point where we have to say, listen, maybe at a certain age we need someone to be committed at this point. That's fine if you've made a decision in 2021. I'm not saying you could be closed-minded to playing the rules that are there, of course not. But I think when people it feels it's so blatantly like they're 25, 26 and, well, this is all I've got.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just doesn't. I had no problem with it before, but I maybe it's just I'm coloured from speaking to people who maybe would be around the scene otherwise. It's one thing going after a superstar. I can sort of appreciate why that happens, but we're very unlikely to get superstars through the eligibility rules now because England's plight is so desperate, and we've seen what happens with a Declan Rice then that comes along. So I don't know. I think I'd feel happier with a focus on people who've been there the whole time and it's their dream and they've aspired to it, rather than just blatantly trawling around for anyone you can get. It just doesn't maybe sit so comfortably now.
I'd be interested to get your take on this, Kevin. I hope the PA system has quietened down a small bit at the Den. What do you reckon?
Do you know what? You might as well just put a tape recorder and record exactly what Dan said there. We share exactly the same views with Dan and what he's saying. I can't get on board with someone like Will Keane jumping on a bandwagon now because he can't get a call up for England when he was a superstar as a youngster. We know that when he was playing at Man United, he's had a lot of injury troubles. But I don't feel comfortable about just calling somebody up like that. I wouldn't feel comfortable about calling Declan Rice up now. I wouldn't. I don't feel comfortable about it because they've shown the true colours in my eyes, and that's the way that I feel about it. It's the same with Nathan Redmond as well. He's played for England. He's capped by England. He's an English international. He's not Irish, as far as I'm concerned. He's not. I understand he's got close links, family-wise, to the country, but it's meaningless to me once you've committed yourself, once you've shown who you want to play for. As Dan maybe touched on there, where your dream is, where you see yourself when the country's national anthem's playing. I understand a lot don't share that view, but that's the way I feel on it, and I can't jump on board with calling these lads up for the sake of calling them up because we've got nobody else.
Are you honestly saying though, Kev, that if Rice were now going to decide, yeah, I'm going to play for Ireland, you wouldn't be happy with that?
I wouldn't be happy with it, Johnny. No, not unless there's a serious message or a serious answer that he's given as to why he has played 3 times and then all of a sudden had to think about playing for us. You don't think about playing for Ireland, Johnny. That's the way I feel. I'm sorry, but I can't get on board with that.
I would differ from Kev on Rice because in my view he came in at underage level. He integrated. If he stays now, it's because of that experience and I think and a degree of loyalty aspiring from that. I think he's slightly different, in my view, from someone at 26 who has shown no inclination until that point. I would draw a distinction between. I know that we may have players playing who would have been tempted in another way, because that's the reality of people grow up sometimes with that dual identity to a degree. But my issue would be more so with the lads coming in very, very much later in the day, whereas Rice has been coming over to play for Ireland, and apparently his attitude has been very good about that from a very young age.
On Declan Rice, Kev, I guess the situation is he's getting cold feet, not just about Ireland, but also about England. He hasn't committed to England yet either. So should England football fans look at Declan Rice and say he hasn't followed his heart all the time here in terms of being English, so therefore we shouldn't support him?
No, but that's not the point, though, is it? Because he's turned down a call-up. He's played 3 times at senior international level, numerous times at underage level. He's committed, and then all of a sudden, there's a loophole there, so that loophole can actually lead you to say, "Hang on a minute, I need to rethink my future here." You've made your commitment, or you have committed, and you've made your decision. That's it. Why do you need to reconsider that decision? And there's loads of lads that don't share my view on this one, but I can't get my head around it. Now, I understand he's said that he's a young man that needs to sort out his club future and he's sort out his contract. And I said earlier on, fair play to him on that one, because I admire him for actually saying these lads are earning X amount. I want something similar to what the rest of the squad's getting, because he deserves it. He's that good. But as far as I'm concerned, he's played 3 times and then reconsidered, or he said that he's got a decision to make because Gareth Southgate has picked up the phone. Someone else picks up the phone. If you've got eligibility for somebody else and they pick up the phone to you and you think, yeah, okay, I've had my head turned by whoever, you're eligible for Germany or Brazil, or because you're showing that sort of potential but you've already committed to one country. Nah, I'm sorry, I can't get on board with it. I really, really can't. And unless he comes in and says, look, I wasn't happy with certain things under the last regime. I wasn't happy with something that led me to this decision that was internal, that's something that was happening within the squad. Then I would say, yeah, okay, maybe I'll accept that. If that message is not coming out and his decision was clearly off the back of a phone call off Gareth Southgate having your head turned, no, I wouldn't pick him.
So if some sort of dispute, and there's no suggestion that this is actually the case, but if some sort of dispute was the reason why Declan Rice decided to postpone his decision about Ireland, you'd be okay with that in terms of him coming back on board?
I'd want it clear. Clear. He's 20 now. He was 19. He's a young man. Yes, he's a young man. We all make decisions that we probably regret when we get a little bit older. But he's not a 14-year-old man. You know your own mind when you're at that age. When you're 18 and 19, you know your own mind. Yes, I understand that you've got to become a lot more wiser to the world and things like this, and you've got to actually make different decisions, or you will make different decisions that you would make when you're a little bit younger. But this is different. It's entirely different.
So do you subscribe to the idea at all that, I guess, it is quite a cynical thing, I will admit, Kev, that, we can judge the likes of Will Keane on one level, but we can judge players of a higher quality, but in the same situation on a different level? Because ultimately, I think, speaking for myself here, my view would change on a lot of players if, say, Nathan Redmond came in and scored a winning goal that'd get us qualified for the next Euros.
Yeah, but I understand that's a lot of people's mindset, and I'll take it, and I'll shake every Irishman's hand that pulls on the shirt. But I can't agree in any way, shape or form with that rule that allows you to play for one country and go on to play for another, and allows you to switch allegiances to suit your needs, essentially, because that's all it's doing. You're changing allegiances to suit your needs, and I can't. Of course, if he's wearing the shirt, of course I'll support him. Of course I want the team to do well. Mick McCarthy or Stephen Kenny, whoever's managing these players down the line, and we get to a major championship, of course I'm going to support the team. That's right. That's who I am. But I don't like it. I don't like it. Of course I don't like it in any way.
Yeah, but a reaction to this. Someone's in touch to say when Mark Noble turned us down because he didn't feel Irish, I thought that was really refreshing to hear. He said, I can't take a place of someone who wants it more instead of taking easy caps. And someone else is in touch to say, I agree with Kevin. If he was consistently being capped by England, would he want to change? No. It is all to put himself in the shop window and raise his profile. Internationals make more in the transfer market. It is simple as that. I presume that's in relation
as well.
to
we've had a lot of players that have done that. They've been eligible for us. Mark Noble being one. Total admiration for him. I wouldn't have appreciated, because I was part of that squad when he was initially being talked about coming in. I wouldn't have appreciated him coming in, even though he played underage football for England. I wouldn't have done. Much the same as Dave Kitson. He could have played for us at some stage as well in his career. And he said, "Look, I'm not Irish. Why would I want to play for them?" Total admiration for that. That's the views. Thank you very much. They don't want to play for us. No problems at all. You move on with it. That's the way it should be in my mind. That's the way it is.
I just think that, and I'm not sure. Again, I'm speculating with Rice, but like I think the idea of nationality is very much, different strokes for different blokes. Like it's like Rice maybe mildly ambivalent about where he stands in terms of feeling Irish or English. And I think it's just Kev's way of looking at it. I think in terms of a hardcore love of his country, I think it's probably becoming anachronistic a bit at this stage, especially with professional footballers. And you obviously know that yourself, Kev.
And Kev just seems so calm, just at the crucial point.
I'd beaten him so easily in the argument, I just decided that he'd turn off his mic. But no, I mean, I sincerely hope Rice is not in any way swayed by the views that Kevin is expressing, because it's very, very badly want him to play for Ireland. I think he could be a massive player for us for 10, 15 years. And I honestly couldn't give a damn about the procrastination. I just hope he makes a decision, but I'd say I'd welcome him with open arms any day of the week.
Yeah, well, I'd be very comfortable with Declan Rice playing for Ireland and coming back to play for Ireland. Absolutely fine with that.
So would the crowd.
One or two of the other names mentioned.
I get you on that.
You would be slightly, you'd be slightly uneasy, but I mean, they always win you over. I mean, like Clinton Morrison is welcomed back, in Ireland, as he's a beloved figure, and he played a very public game of sort of flirtation with England at the time. So it happens, and we've done it before, and we all sometimes sort of apply short memories when it suits us.
Yeah.
But I just think in some ways you want a player to be really, really worth it to break things up. And I think that's why, Kenny's attitude to this, it's going to be interesting to see, does it hold? Because naturally, particularly at senior level, there's a real pressure. And
that's the question, really.
If you suddenly have the 24-year-old, say the Scott Hogan type, who's another player I mentioned, that actually, Scott Hogan just came along when he was at Brentford, albeit having played for Ireland before, but at one level. But then it was very clear from the Hogan side of things that there was people in his camp pushing him towards England as the next Vardy. And ironically enough now, we possibly, like Sean Maguire might be a more complete all-round player than Scott Hogan, but we were fixated on Hogan at that time. God, we have to get him, we have to get him, we have to get him. And if that sort of player comes along, that late developing player out of nowhere, what would Kenny's approach be to it if he desperately needs a striker? That's a massive test. It's a massive test of.
I do think Kenny's MO, though, judging from his comments during the week, will be not entirely separate from what Kevin Kilbane's is, in terms of you want to be part of our setup, and I'm not going to go pleading with players to come over here. Now, as Dan said, he's not against the idea, but Kenny will be very, very strong in that. And it'll be very much, we're in this together, and we're going to do what's best for Irish football going forward. But this is going to be very much a cohesive thing from the top anyway.